Okay, my favorite BYU students. This is going to be the video that's going to walk us through the Isaiah chapters in the Book of Mormon. You can listen as fast as you want. Of course, it'd be ideal if you were sitting down with your scriptures and going through this, but you don't have to be. This can also count as your 15 minutes of scripture study that's required for a class each day. 15 minutes in the Book of Mormon as we walk through these. The best way to teach Isaiah is to go verse by verse. I probably can't do every single verse. I would love to, but that would destroy some of you. Just you're like, I can't do it, Brother Smith. I can't stay with it. So we'll highlight some along the way. So in we just need to do a little bit of background to just from our first video. So this will just kind of refresh on the first video we did, the history of Israel. If you're lost as I go through this, go back to that one again and just make sure you grasp that. Okay, so in the first video, we talked about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and their wives and children, who we would consider like the fathers, right? The family of Israel, and that God has chosen this family to bless all the families of the earth. It's named the house of Israel because Jacob's name was changed to Israel. He has those 4 wives and the 12 sons, which are called the 12 tribes of Israel. We talked about Joseph, one of the sons, taking the family to Egypt, his story, taking the family to Egypt, Moses bringing them out of Egypt 430 years later. Joshua leads them into the promised land after the wandering in the wilderness. And then when Samuel is the high priest, they choose kings, right? We talked about Saul, David, and Solomon being the first 3 kings of Israel and how this is a terrible idea. We're 0 for 3. Then Israel divides. Northern kingdom, 10 tribes. Southern kingdom, 2 tribes. The northern kingdom is called Israel. The southern kingdom is called Judah. And the Lord keeps sending prophets. Eventually comes Isaiah, basically the prophet of the Old Testament, right by Moses. And he tells the northern kingdom they're going to be destroyed. He tells the southern kingdom that they will be destroyed, but not for a while. And that's what happens 721 BC. Israel is the northern kingdom. The 10 tribes are destroyed or lost or carried away captive or scattered by Assyria, this major superpower. But Judah was saved by Isaiah and Hezekiah. We talked about that in the last video. Then Assyria, the superpower that took the northern kingdom of Israel, is conquered by Babylon. Babylon now wants to attack Judah because it's still around. And they take that in 587 BC. Just before that, Lehi, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, this is where the Book of Mormon fits into the Bible story. Lehi flees Jerusalem. You guys know this story from the Book of Mormon. And about 10 years later, Judah is destroyed. The southern kingdom, the 2 tribes, the southern kingdom of Judah is taken. We talked about how Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, these are among the Jews, right? These Jewish people who were taken captive into Babylon. Many were killed, many became slaves. And then we talked about how in 539 BC, not that much later, 50 years later, the king of Persia, his name is Cyrus, he sees himself as a liberator to free people from Babylon, and he allows the Jews, the descendants of those who were taken 50 years ago, maybe some of those same people, to return and rebuild Jerusalem. All right, if you know that history right there, it's going to make understanding Isaiah much easier. I think we talked about this in the last video. If you understand Isaiah, you'll understand 2 things better: Jesus and his mission, and the covenant that God placed on Abraham and the house of Israel, who are going to bless everyone. Okay, so Nephi first introduces this idea to us in 1 Nephi 19. So if you have scriptures, go to 1 Nephi 19. We're going to walk through these last 4 chapters, 19, 20, 21, and 22 of 1 Nephi. Because 1 Nephi, up to that point, is for a lot of us, we're like, oh, I totally get this, right? You have the beginning stories of going back to Jerusalem a couple of times. Then you have Lehi's dream and Nephi's vision. And then you have them building the boat, breaking the bow, building the boat, all at the Liahona. And then we get to 19. And this is where most people, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of people get lost because we no longer do a storyline but this is where we no longer follow a storyline, I should say. But this is where Nephi Nephi kind of said, he says, I want to introduce this idea of Isaiah to the reader. This is kind of his, he's gonna give us an explanation, like an opening chapter in 19. He's gonna quote Isaiah in 20 and 21, and then he's gonna follow up with a lesson in 22. So in 19, he prepares us to read Isaiah. He reads Isaiah to us in 20 and 21, and then in 22, he explains what he got out of that. So, and so let's just start in 19. Nephi says, he said, I was making a record of my father at the time that I was making that record, during all these things that were happening with the ship and the and Bountiful, right? And Laman and Lemuel. He said, I didn't know I was going to make these plates. These plates meaning first and second Nephi. The other ones he's making, we don't have those. That first set of plates he talks about, we don't have. He says, upon that first set of plates, this is verse 2. I put things of genealogy of our fathers, our proceedings in the wilderness. And then he said in verse 3, but I made these plates later, and I received a commandment that I should put more of the ministry, the prophecies, and the plain and precious truths on them. And these are the ones we're reading right now. These are the ones that he makes 30, 40 years after he leaves Jerusalem. We've been talking about that in class for quite a while. All right. So he says, so let me talk to you about these prophecies that I'm going to put on these plates. In verse 6, he says, this is sacred stuff. The stuff I'm writing on this isn't mainly just history. These are sacred things. Talks about how sacred things are often trampled under people's feet. And then watch what he does next. He's going to take what he saw in his vision, First Nephi 11 through 14, which we'll talk about actually later in class. Maybe that's a backwards way to go on my part. But in First Nephi 11 through 14, Nephi saw the life of Christ, and then what happens after that. Okay, so it says this is from his vision, I assume, verse 9, that the Messiah is going to come, and they'll scourge him, and he'll suffer it. They'll smite him, he'll suffer it. They'll spit on him, and he suffers it. Why? Because of his kindness and his long suffering towards the children of men. This is the guy who led us out of Egypt, who out of bondage. And he is coming and he's going to yield himself to wicked men. And he says that's what he reads in Zenoch. This is verse 10. Zenoch, Nahum, and Zenos. Do you see those names there? These are names in Nephi's scriptures that we don't have. So I would say maybe they are Old Testament prophets before 600 BC that you and I don't have access to. But he talks about how these three prophets were looking forward to Christ's coming. And he says, I can see it now. I think now that he's had his vision, he's like, now I can see it. Let's keep going. He quotes more of Zenos in verse 12. He talks about how Jerusalem will be destroyed, and how these Jews despise the Holy One of Israel. Verse 14, they will wander in the flesh and perish, become a hiss and a byword. A byword is like an object of scorn, right? They'll be hated by all nations. Verse 15, nevertheless, when the day comes, saith the prophet, that they no more turn their hearts against God, he will remember the covenant which he made to their fathers. That's verse 15. Who are the fathers? Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the original family. They who will remember the isles of the sea, the people who are the house of Israel. He'll gather them in, saith the Lord. So Nephi is living the scattering. Remember our history here? Go back to 600 BC, right? This is right in the middle of the scattering of Israel. Northern kingdom scattered 721 BC. Southern kingdom scattered in 587 BC. What happens right there in the middle? Yeah, Nephi and his family are living the scattering of Israel. Like the Lord says, yeah, you're part of the scattering, pick you up, move you to another side of the planet, right? So in verse 16, do you see why Nephi cares so much about this topic, the scattering and the gathering of Israel? Because he's living the scattering of Israel. I don't think he wanted to leave. I don't think any of them were hoping they could, pack up and spend a decade in the wilderness and cross to a new land and rebuild their entire lives. Uh, so he's looking forward to the gathering, that one day this will all be made right. And that's verse 16, right, of First Nephi 19. He will remember the isles of the sea, the people who are the house of Israel. I will gather them in. Verse 17, yea, all the earth will see the salvation of the Lord. Verse 18, he goes in, he's like, okay, now I'm going to read to you Isaiah. I'm writing that I might persuade you to believe in the Lord your Redeemer. Verse 18. Okay, now look at verse 19. Verse 19, when I was in seminary, we always focused on the last four lines. I did liken all scriptures unto us that might be for our profit and learning. We are going to talk about that, but this middle part is his thesis for giving us so much of Isaiah. He says, I wanted my family to to believe in the Lord their Redeemer. So I read to them that which was written by the prophet Isaiah. I know you and I are like, I wanted my family to sleep better. So I read unto them that which was written by the prophet Isaiah. I mean, Nephi truly believes that if you read Isaiah and understand it, that's how you'll believe in Jesus. And we need to come to that same place, right? Where we really believe that if we understand Isaiah, we comprehend the mission of the Savior. And Jesus himself is going to tell the Nephites in 3rd Nephi, right? I think it's 22 that Isaiah gets it, right? When Jesus sees Isaiah in the spirit world, he's like, I still love your book, right? Let's go back to 19 through 22, okay? Let's see, where were we? We turned the page. Okay, let's go to 20. Now he's going to quote two chapters of Isaiah that we have, chapter 48 and 49 of Isaiah. By the way, I wanted to throw something out at you. Those of you who are like, Brother Smith, I really want to get every verse of this. I use an app or a website called Bible Hub, and it's not a Latter-day Saint app, uh, but it's fantastic. Grab the app, Bible Hub. You can go to Isaiah 48 on the app, and you can read about 25 to 30 different translations of Isaiah 48. Some of them are, like the KJV, which is about an 11th or 12th grade reading level, but you have others that are a little more simple. The contemporary English, the New Inspired Version. These are ones that you could say, it's not that you can't read, right? It's not that you're not smart. It's that sometimes this language can throw you, especially when you're basically mixing two things because you're looking at ancient Jewish writing, right? Which is going to use a lot of poetry and symbolism. And then you're adding the King James English. So it can be really confusing and kind of convoluted. So what those different translations do is they help you just kind of read it and go, oh, okay, that's what it means. It's a little more simple. Then I can go back to the KJV and I can go, oh, I see it now because one of those easier levels, one of those easier to read translations helped me see in a more simple terms. So we might even use that while we're here. Okay, so we're going to start in 1 Nephi 20, verse 1. Love it if you'd follow along. Here's Isaiah. Remember, it's between 740 and 700 BC. He is speaking either to the northern kingdom of Israel or the southern kingdom of Judah. They were both around for him, right? He told this northern kingdom they're going to be destroyed. He told the southern kingdom, you're going to have a little bit of time, but yeah, you'll be destroyed as well. Hearken, okay, verse 1, and hear this, O house of Jacob, okay, you know who that is, Israel, and who are called by the name of Israel and are come forth out of the waters of Judah. That it's kind of like that's a covenant, right? Who are in the covenant. This little phrase right here, or out of the waters of baptism, that's actually not in the original Book of Mormon, 1830. That was added by Joseph Smith in 1840 to try, I think, kind of a clarification. So he says, listen to me, the house of Israel, those of you who are of the name of Israel. You swear by the name of the Lord. You mention the God of Israel, but you are not covenanting in truth nor in righteousness. So it's all talk. You talk big, you talk righteous, you make covenants, but you don't keep covenants. Verse 2, they call themselves the holy city, but they don't stay themselves. Stay right there means rely. They don't rely on the God of Israel, the Lord of hosts. The Lord of hosts is his name. By the way, you'll see Isaiah repeat himself a lot. He doesn't have exclamation points like you and I do, or all caps. So in order to emphasize something, he'll repeat it. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Right? There's a symbol of repentance. But he'll say it again. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool. So when you see him say things once, you're like, oh, it's not. I take that back. When you see him say things twice, he's emphasizing something. When you see him say him three times, super like he's trying to like throw a bunch of exclamation points on it. Oh, this one's easy. How about whoa? Warning. Whoa, whoa. Ooh, that's that's a bigger warning, right? Even though it says the same word, he said it twice. Whoa, whoa. And then there's the dreaded triple whoaer. Whoa, whoa, whoa. That's as woe as you go, you guys. That's the woest of the woe. And so if you watch the repetition, that'll help you. And you can kind of see him say the same thing twice there. Those of you who make covenants but don't keep them, then verse 2, those of you who call yourselves the holy people, the holy city, but you don't rely on God. So he's just repeating himself there. He says, verse 3, I have declared this from the beginning. They went forth out of my mouth. I showed them, I did show them suddenly. He's going to say the same thing a little bit later, which is these things. I've been saying this since day one, right? This isn't new. Um, I did it because I know that you're obstinate. Obstinate just means stubborn, and your neck is an iron sinew. Why is someone's neck made of iron? Because they won't bow their head. They're not humble, right? So if I can't bow my head in prayer, I'm not humble. When I bow my head, or when the Lord says, bow your head, right? It means be humble. Your brow is brass. This is your brow. And if it's made of metal, you don't close your eyes, right? So think of someone bowing their head and closing their eyes in prayer. They're humble. But if someone's not, their neck is made of iron. They're like, I'm not going to bow my head, right? And I'm not going to close my eyes for the prayer. Look at me. I'm the rebel, right? He says, I have even from the beginning declared this to you. He repeats himself. Before it came to pass, I showed you these things. I showed them. I told you that these things would happen. So you don't say, oh, you know what? It wasn't God that did that. It was an idol that did that. He says, I've been talking since the beginning so you would be able to see it. Obviously, look at verse 6. You have seen it. You've heard it. Will you not declare it, meaning admit it? Will you not admit it? I have showed you these things from this time, hidden things. You didn't know them before I said them. They are created now, not from the beginning. So he's like, I came up with them. When I first said this, I didn't just repeat something I had heard from before. I said it brand new. Even before the day when you heard them not, were declared unto thee. Meaning, even when you weren't listening, I was saying it. And now you can't say, behold, I knew them. You can't say like, oh, I totally knew that before you said it. Yeah, you did not hear. You did not listen. You knew not. From the time your ear, it was not opened. I knew you would be this way. I knew you would be deceitful, treacherous. Um, you have been this way since you were born. You were called a transgression from the womb. Then he adds, and he's speaking for Jehovah, for my name's sake, I will defer my anger. My praise will I refrain from thee, that I cut thee not off. Or for my praise will I refrain from thee, meaning God is merciful. I have refined thee. I have chosen thee in the furnace of affliction, meaning I am testing you. You are my people. You're the people that are supposed to bless the whole earth. So all my doing here is to grow you, to help you become. See that in verse 11? I have tested thee in the furnace of affliction. For my own sake, yea, for my own sake will I do this. I will not suffer my name to be polluted. I will not give my glory unto another. Okay, do you see what he's saying to the house of Israel? I will not give up on you, yet you won't pollute my name. So what are we going to do? You're my chosen people, but you're not acting like it. I can't let that happen because you're my chosen people and you have my name, but I'm not going to choose another people. Therefore, here's what I'm going to do. Hearken to me, O Jacob and Israel, my called, for I am he, I am the first, I am also the last. Mine hand hath also laid the foundation of the earth. You guys get this? The right hand hath spanned the heavens. I call them together. I stand together, meaning I am God. Assemble yourselves and hear. Who among you hath declared these things unto them? The Lord hath loved them, loved him. Yea, and he will fulfill that which he has declared by them, meaning, okay, so This is very likely a prophecy of Cyrus, right? So, okay, do you remember our timeline? Let's go back. So, in 539 BC, you have all these Jews in Babylon. They've been taken captive, and Cyrus is going to come liberate them and send them home. In fact, some of them see him as like a Messiah figure. Okay. Sorry if you can hear the dogs outside. Yeah, you probably heard that. Okay. So the Lord hath loved him. Him is probably Cyrus here. He will fulfill the which he hath declared by them. He will do his pleasure on Babylon. So, do you see in verse 14? Look out on our timeline here. Cyrus liberates or conquers Babylon. His arm shall come upon the Chaldeans. That's the Babylonians. Also saith the Lord, I, the Lord, yea, I have spoken, I have called him to declare, I have brought him, and he shall make his way prosperous, meaning I called Cyrus. At least that's how many of the Jews see it in that time. Come ye near unto me. I have not spoken in secret. From the beginning, from the time it was declared, I have spoken, and the Lord God and his Spirit hath sent me. And thus saith the Lord, the Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, I have sent him. Still talking about Cyrus, the Lord thy God, who teacheth thee to profit, who leadeth thee by the way thou should go, and hath done it. Meaning, God did this. God saved you, a portion of you from Babylon. If you remember in our first video, we talked about Isaiah's two sons. The first one, Maher-shalal-Hash-Baz, which is to the northern kingdom of Israel. Destruction is coming, judgment is coming. But to the southern kingdom, the son's name was Sher Yeshuv, the younger son. Do you remember? A portion shall return. Not everybody, but a portion shall return. That's 539 BC, that Cyrus allows a portion, a small portion of the Jews to return to Jerusalem. And that portion of Jews is going to be there until Jesus, until after Jesus, 70 AD. If you're lost on this, go back to that first video and you'll see what I mean, that all of Israel doesn't remain. Most of Israel is scattered, especially that northern kingdom, right? Those 10 tribes. The southern kingdom is destroyed and scattered, but then a small portion is brought back, and they're going to be there from 539 BC all the way past the time of Jesus to 70 AD. And that's when they're destroyed by the Romans. That's it. That's the complete scattering of Israel. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, if you have questions, by the way, you can write down a question and then come to class and we'll take questions. Okay, verse 18. Oh, that you had hearkened to my commandments. Your peace would have been as a river, righteousness as the waves of the sea, right? Waves of the sea, just constant righteousness. Thy seed, meaning your children, would be like the sand, your offspring, like the bowels of the gravel thereof. His name would not have been cut off nor destroyed from before me. If you just would have, right? Israel, I'm going to give you unique commandments. And if you keep those commandments, you'll be blessed. And with those blessings, you are going to bless everybody else. That's the Abrahamic covenant, right? This one family is going to bless the whole earth. And he's like, oh, if you would have done it. Verse 19, things would have been so good. Verse 20, go ye forth of Babylon, get away from Babylon, 539 BC, right? Flee from the Chaldeans, that's the Babylonians, with a voice of singing declare, right? The Lord hath redeemed his servant Jacob. They thirsted not. He led them through the deserts. He caused the waters to flow out of the rock. So this is talking about the time of Moses. He clave the rock also, and the waters gushed out. If you don't know those stories, those are from the Exodus. When Israel was wandering in the wilderness, Moses did all of those things. But the Lord says, I can't give peace to the wicked. There is no peace. There's none available, right? Wickedness never was happiness. It's impossible to grow a wickedness tree and pick fruit of happiness off of it. There is no peace for the wicked. All right, so that was First Nephi 20. Now you can see why Nephi is quoting it. He's living this, right? He's living this. You, Israel, you were the chosen people. You say these things, you make covenants, but you don't keep them. And he said, now the time of judgment is come. And it seems that Nephi, I don't know if Nephi understands what's going to happen in 539 BC. He doesn't really seem to bring it up. He doesn't really talk about it. But we can see it now that we've lived right past those times, and we can see what the prophecy that Isaiah was making. Okay, now go to 21. chapter 21 is to those who have been broken off. Okay, so Isaiah is writing to scattered Israel. So 721 has happened, northern kingdom is destroyed. 587 has happened, southern kingdom is destroyed. You're not part of the small group that returns in 539. This message is for you. So do you see why Nephi would take that personally? Because it's written to him, to his people, to people like him who have been broken off from Israel, and they're gone now. They don't have their job of blessing the whole earth, but God has not forgotten about them. Now I know you're like, why does this matter? But to Nephi, hopefully you can see why it would matter. Like he's like, this is me, this is my people. Okay, 21 verse 1. Hearken, O ye house of Israel, all ye that are broken off and are driven out because of the wickedness of the pastors of my people, the teachers. All you that are broken off, scattered abroad, O house of Israel, listen, O isles, unto me. Hearken, ye people from afar. The Lord hath called me from the womb, from the bowels of my mother hath he made mention of my name. He hath made my mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand he hath hid me, and made me a polished shaft. In his quiver hath he hid me. So this is Israel. God is saying, you're still my. Those are the dogs. Sarah, hey, Steele, could dogs not bark? All right, thanks. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, back to chapter 21, or yeah, back to 21. So he's saying, you're still my chosen people, right? You are still the arrow in my quiver. Verse 3, thou art my servant, Israel, in whom I will be glorified. Yes, you are scattered right now, but it wasn't scatter you, I hate you, I'm never going to talk to you again, I'm going to choose a new family. It was scatter you, but I will bring you back. Then I said, I have labored in vain. Israel's like, I tried. I've spent my strength for naught and in vain. Surely my judgment is with the Lord and my work is with my God. And the Lord is like, I failed, right? I worked so hard and I failed. This is all of Israel speaking. Sometimes you'll get Israel, not the people speaking, but you'll get Isaiah speaking as like this person that represents all of Israel, and especially this group that's been broken off, like Nephi, who they didn't do anything wrong, right? They were scattered. They were part of the scattering, but they weren't scattered because they, right, were they were unrighteous or they didn't follow God. These are the ones who were like, I tried, and it didn't work. Verse 5. And now saith the Lord that formed me from the womb that I should be his servant. Okay, does that make sense? This is the way back with Abraham and Sarah. This is the chosen people, right? To bring Jacob again unto him. Though Israel be not gathered, yet shall I be glorious in the eyes of the Lord, and my God shall be my strength. So you see the message Nephi is getting here. Though I'm not part of gathered Israel, I can still be glorious. He said, it is a light thing that thou should be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob. So, verse 6, let's see if I can rephrase it. If you can use Bible Hub on this one, it'll say something like, the job that you're thinking you had of being helpful to the tribes, that's way too small. I have much bigger plans for you. I will give thee for a light to the Gentiles, that thou mightest be my salvation unto the ends of the earth. So he's saying, I know that you're frustrated, right? You're saying, oh, man, I'm part of scattered Israel. I wanted to be the one part of the group that saved the tribes, right? That saved Israel and brought it back. And he says, yeah, that's not a big enough goal. We're gonna bless the whole earth here. Thus saith the Lord, thy Redeemer of Israel, his Holy One, to whom him man despiseth. So that's like Assyria and Babylon. To him whom the nations abhor, to the servant of rulers, kings shall see thee and arise. Princes also shall worship because of the Lord that is faithful. So that's a promise that one day you'll be the chosen people again. One day. Right now, No one thinks you're any good, right? Right now, people are like, well, they were destroyed easily by Assyria and by Babylon. But God is saying one day kings will see you and stand up. Princes will worship you because that's how faithful I am. Verse 8, thus saith the Lord, in an acceptable time have I heard thee, O isles of the sea, and in a day of salvation have I helped thee, and I will preserve thee and give thee my servant for a covenant of the people, to establish the earth, to cause to inherit the desolate heritages, meaning you're one day you're still my chosen people. You one day will say to the prisoners, go forth to them that sit in darkness, show yourselves. They shall feed in the ways, and their pastures shall be in all the high places. So it's just a way of saying Israel will be prosperous once again. They will hunger not, they won't thirst, they won't the heat or the sun won't smite them. For he that hath mercy on them shall lead them, even by the springs of the water shall he guide them. I will make all thy mountains a way, thy highways shall be exalted. So again, these are just poetic ways of saying one day Israel will be strong again, not scattered. Then, O house of Israel, behold, these shall come from afar, and lo, these from the north, from the west, from the land of Sinim, meaning just far away places. Sing, O heavens, and be joyful, O earth, for the feet of those who are in the east shall be established, and break forth into singing, O mountains, for they shall be smitten no more. For the Lord hath comforted his people, and will have mercy upon his afflicted. I hope you're picking up on this, that he's saying, I have not forgotten you, scattered Israel. You probably heard this one before. Zion, that's Israel, right there. Zion in verse 14, that's Israel. Israel is going to say, you've forsaken me. You've forgotten me, right? So here's scattered Israel out there, and they're saying, God forgot us out here. Now, the Lord says, for can a woman forget her sucking child, nursing, that she should not have compassion on the son of her womb? Not very many of you are mothers, but one day you will be. And if there's one thing I've seen a mother not forget, it's a newborn, um, right? And the Lord even says that woman may forget. Like, what are the odds that that brand new mom is going to forget? Even if they do, I will not forget my people, the house of Israel. I had a mother come up to me once and she said, if you have a nursing child and they haven't nursed in a while, it's really painful for you. She said, so this verse teaches me that this separation, this scattering is not only painful for Israel, but it's painful for Jesus. All right. That this symbol creates, he's like, I'm pained that you're scattered right now. Behold, I have graven you upon the palms of my hands. Meaning, Israel, I haven't forgotten you. I have tattooed you on my hands. Now, don't do this, you guys, but what if you said to someone, I love you so much, I tattooed your name on my hands, right? How often am I going to remember you? Of all of our body, that's what we look at, right? All day is we see our hands. We look down at what we're doing, there's our hands. He's like, how can I forget you? I've tattooed you on my hands. Don't do that, right? That's stalker status, but you get it. Thy walls are continually before me, meaning your homes are like I see them all the time. Your children will make haste against the destroyers. So it's not you that's probably going to live to see this day. He's saying to Nephi and scattered Israel, not to you, meaning you and me, but to scattered Israel. But your descendants will, your descendants will. Lift, this is verse 18, lift up thine eyes round about and together. All these, meaning the descendants, gather themselves together. They will come to thee. As I live, saith the Lord, thou shalt surely clothe thee with them all, as with an ornament, and bind them as even as a bride. You're going to see this a lot as we talk this year about Israel. In the Old Testament, this is maybe the most common symbol between Jehovah and Israel, his servant. The family, it's going to bless all the families of the earth. It's very much a marriage relationship. You'll see it over and over that Jehovah, God, is the groom and Israel is the bride. All of Israel, all men and women of Israel, they're the bride. And the Lord wants them to be in this covenantal, close relationship. Okay, verse 19. For thy waste and thy desolate places, the land of destruction, shall even now be too narrow by the reason of the inhabitants. So he's saying these places, these cities that you once had that were destroyed, they're going to be too small one day for all the inhabitants. Verse 20, the children that thou shalt have, meaning your descendants, after thou hast lost the first, meaning the first land as you were scattered, it was gone, but they'll say in thine ears, this place is too straight for me. Straight means, in that verse, it means crowded. These cities are too crowded for me. So, what Nephi is reading here is that one day the cities, Jerusalem and the other cities around that were Israel's land that have been destroyed, are now like desolate. But one day they'll be full again of Israelites who are doing God's work. Um, he says that one day, verse 22, I will lift up my hand to the Gentiles, meaning the gospel's going to come to the Gentiles first, non-Jews. So that would be, you and I could be considered the Gentiles in this verse 22. One day I will give the gospel to the Gentiles. They will go find the house of Israel. Verse 22, I will set up a standard to my people. They shall bring thy sons, scattered Israel, in their arms. Thy daughters shall be carried upon their shoulders. Verse 22 is very much a missionary verse, that you are, as a missionary, a Gentile, and you're going out and you're finding scattered Israel. The king shall be thy nursing fathers, queens thy nursing mothers, meaning that these very important, amazing people will serve you. They'll look to you. That's the rest of verse 23, uh, 24, 25, 26. I will fight your battles, right? It's kind of a gruesome, those that fight against you, they'll eat their own flesh, they'll drink their own blood. It's just a very graphic way of saying that I am on your side. One day you'll be back, scattered Israel. So do you see why Nephi would like these two chapters? Because he's living the scattering, and he is verse chapter 20, which is Isaiah 48, was why they were scattered, right? And then this small portion that gets to return under Cyrus. And then 21, basically, chapter 21 is Israel, I have not forgotten you. So you can see why Nephi would care about this, right? I hope. Okay, write down any questions that you have. Now, what chapter 22 is for Nephi is that he starts to explain what he got out of those two chapters, and he does thread in a lot of his vision that he had in 1 Nephi 11 through 14. So as you go through chapter 22, you can say, oh, that's from Isaiah. Oh, that's from his vision. He's weaving the two together. He's learning, right? Nephi is learning. He says, all right, there's a couple of things that you can see. Verse 4, there are many who are already lost from the knowledge of those who are at Jerusalem, meaning scattered Israel. The more part of all the tribes have been led away. You know that story now, right? They are scattered to and fro upon the isles of the sea, and whether they know, none of us knoweth, and whither they are, wherever they are, no one knows, save that we know that they have been led away. We know that Israel has been scattered, and we're part of it, right? Um, verse 5, and since they have been led away, these things have been prophesied concerning them, scattered Israel, and also concerning all those who shall hereafter be scattered and confounded because of the Holy One of Israel. For against him will they harden their hearts. Wherefore they are scattered among all nations and shall be hated of all men. Nevertheless, after they shall be nursed by the Gentiles. So Nephi is saying, Israel is scattered and hated. One day, the Gentiles will have the gospel, and he's going to send the Gentiles to go hunt for scattered Israel. Who are the Gentiles? Very good. That's you and me. We are going to go find scattered Israel, set them up for a standard. Now, I know you and I were like, wait, I thought we were of Israel. We are. This is something I probably need to explain in class so I can see your faces to see if you're getting it. To Nephi, you're a Gentile because you're not from the southern kingdom of Judah. You're not from the northern kingdom of Israel. So you are a Gentile. That's what he's going to refer to these future people that have the gospel. That's you and I. Now, we would consider ourselves Israel, and that's who we are. We are Israel. And I think Nephi sees that you're Israel, but he's saying, what about the descendants of those who have been scattered? Right? What about those? That's his when he says they're going to be gathered by the Gentiles, he's talking about that kind of like a specific type of person, scattered Israel, and Gentiles, that's you and me. Okay. It's interesting. When you hear the word Gentile, you have to find out who's talking and when. to find out, okay, who are they talking about? So verse 6, and this is what he got from Isaiah, right? He read Isaiah 21, where Isaiah talked about the Gentiles in 1 Nephi 21, verse 22. I'm hoping you're following this. He says, oh, I see it now. The Gentiles, this is 22:6, the Gentiles, the Lord will lift up his hand and set them for a standard, and their children, right? Meaning scattered Israel, will be carried in their arms. Their meaning their arms are the Gentiles. Daughters carried upon their shoulders. So he's just quoting Isaiah there. Behold, these things are spoken are temporal, for thus are the covenants of the Lord with our fathers. It means to in the days to come, and also our brethren who are at the house of Israel, it meaneth that the time cometh that after the house of Israel is scattered and confounded, the Lord God will raise up a mighty nation among the Gentiles, a church, maybe, a place where they can begin the gathering, even upon the face of this land, and by them shall our seed be scattered. And after our seed, meaning Israel, the Jews, the people from the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom are scattered, the Lord God will proceed to do a marvelous work among the Gentiles, that's you and I, which shall be of great worth unto our seed, you think? Wherefore it is likened unto their being nourished by the Gentiles and being carried in their arms and upon their shoulders. So he's saying, I get what Isaiah is saying. When Isaiah said the Gentiles are going to pick them up and carry them and nourish them, he's saying that's a it's a metaphor. Verse 9, and it shall be of worth to the Gentiles, not only unto the Gentiles, but to all the house of Israel, unto making known of the covenants of the Father of heaven to Abraham, saying, in thy seed shall all the kindreds of the earth be blessed. You guys remember that from Genesis 12, right? That he promised Abraham that this family is going to bless the whole earth. Verse 12, he will bring them out of captivity. Them is scattered Israel. They shall be gathered together to the lands of their inheritance. They shall be brought out of obscurity and out of darkness. They shall know that the Lord is their Savior and their Redeemer, the mighty one of Israel. Then he blends in his vision, verse 13, the great and abominable church. That's the building that Lehi saw, the great and spacious building, same thing. They are fighting against the gathering. They are fighting against Israel. And that's the rest of the chapter, and how Nephi says, okay, here comes these righteous people who are going to gather Israel. And that's basically the rest of the chapter. You can read the details and let me know what questions you have. So that was just a little mini. First Nephi 19 through 22 are a little mini, hey, here's Nephi. I'm in scattered Israel. Here's what Isaiah has said about why we were scattered and how we're going to be gathered one day. And 22 is, and here's what I got out of that. So Nephi's a great teacher. He says, here's what I'm going to read to you, and here's what you should see. Okay, read to you. Okay, here's what you should have seen. It's a good way of teaching. All right, now let's turn the page over and let's get to the larger chunk that Nephi puts in. We're going to skip the Jacob section. So Jacob teaches Isaiah almost the exact same way in 2 Nephi 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So that's Jacob saying, okay, my brother wants me to teach Isaiah, so I'm going to teach Isaiah. And then Nephi picks it back up in 2 Nephi 11. So that's where we're going to go next. Go to 2 Nephi 11. Okay. I got to pause this for. Let's go to chapter 11. 2 Nephi chapter 11. By the way, I forgot to mention there might be ads on this video. And the only reason there are ads is because I can't turn them off unless I have 500 followers. So if like 100 and something of you want to subscribe, follow, then I can turn the ads off. But I can't until then. So sorry. I promise you I'm not making any money. If I was, there'd be ads. Okay. Chapter 11. So in chapter 11, Nephi has told more of the story about Lehi and his last words, and how they moved, how they broke away from the Lamanites, and how he and Jacob and Joseph are these teachers, over the people. Okay. And he's just allowed, or he's just inserted a full sermon explanation institute class from Jacob on some Isaiah chapters. So Jacob starts in chapter 6, and he says, "All right, my brother wants me to read Isaiah to you and teach on it." So that's what I'm about to do. Jacob didn't put this on the plates. Nephi put Jacob's uh, his sermon on the plates. Does that make sense? And his explanation. We're going to do that some other time. Okay, so Second Nephi 11, um, Nephi says Jacob taught a lot more than that, but I just put that lesson. This is verse 1 on the plates, and that's good enough for me. And now I, Nephi, I'm going to write more of the words of Isaiah, for my soul delights in his words. He loves Isaiah, which makes sense, right? If you look back in 721 BC, Israel was destroyed by Assyria, but Judah and its capital city, Jerusalem, are saved by Isaiah and Hezekiah. Makes sense why Nephi loves him so much. One, he's this incredible prophet who's talking about the scattering and the gathering, and he saved the country, right? He's like Joseph Smith and George Washington combined. You can see he's like Nephi's hero, right? And he says he saw the Redeemer, even as I have seen him. And I have seen him there. You could put First Nephi 11 through 14, right? Where Nephi has his vision. And he says, my brother Jacob has seen this same thing, has seen him. So it's almost like these three witnesses, Nephi, Jacob, and Isaiah, are like the trifecta of we have all seen this future Messiah. He says, I love Isaiah because it, in verse 4, my soul delights in this because it proves to people the coming of the Messiah, the coming of Christ, right? It hasn't happened yet for Nephi. He says the law of Moses has been designed for that very purpose. My soul delights in the covenants he's made. That's verse 5, meaning to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that he's made these promises to Israel. He goes on and says, this is why I'm doing this. I'm trying to get you to see that Isaiah is all about teaching us about Jehovah, Jesus. Okay. All right. So let's go back now, and we're going to walk through these Isaiah chapters. And I would, again, I can't go through every single verse. I actually would really love it, but this is going to be too long. If I do that, it's already too long. Okay. The word that Isaiah, the son of Amos, that's Isaiah's dad, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. Judah is the southern kingdom, its capital city, Jerusalem. Okay, here's what he says. He says, it shall come to pass in the last days. Last days meaning future days, right? It will be in the future days when the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the tops of the mountains, shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. Many people will say, let's go to the mountain of the Lord and let's go learn from there. That's where you learn about God. So now I know that many of you, first response, you're going to say, oh, this is about Salt Lake City and the temple in Utah, which is Utah means the top of the mountains, which it does. Utah, the word Utah means top of the mountains. But I wouldn't say that that's the initial way you need to read this, because remember, this is to Nephi and his people. We can liken it to that, and we could even say that there's dual meanings to it. But this is Nephi. If I had to put it in his terms, the way I think he's seeing it is that one day Israel will be back. There will be a temple, Solomon's temple that was destroyed by Babylon. It will one day be back, and everyone will go to it, right? Or in other words, Israel will be back, and they will be the chosen people, and they will be teaching people about Jehovah, just like God said, we're going to do this, right? Back with Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. He said, you're going to keep unique commandments. If you keep those commandments, you'll get blessings. With those blessings, you bless everybody else. And here is Isaiah saying, in some future day, that is going to happen. Now, we can say, oh, well, this actually fits the idea of Utah and temples really well, and it does. But I wouldn't say that's initially what Isaiah is talking about. I think that's more of a likening And come talk to me in class. Raise your hand and talk to me in class if I'm not explaining this well. He will judge among the nations. He'll rebuke many people. Rebuke means like change, correct them. They shall beat their swords into plows and their spears into pruning hooks. It's a symbolic, it's a poetic way of saying people will change. If I'm a sword, and then I go to the temple, or I go to Jerusalem, or I go to Salt Lake Temple, even, or I go to any temple, and I beat my sword into a plow. I don't do any metal work at the temple, right? No one has a welding mask on. Imagine temple presence. Like, this is about changing. If I go in a sword and come out a plow, what is the symbols there? The symbols are a sword is used to attack, right? To hurt. And now I come out a plow. What is a plow used for? To feed people, right? To till the earth and to grow food and to feed. So in the temple, or because of the God of Jacob, Israel, I change. I change from a sword to a plow, or from a spear to a pruning hook. It's the same idea. He's just repeating it. Remember, we talked about repetition. So, verse 5, O house of Jacob, come, walk in the light of the Lord. Yea, come, for ye have all gone astray, everyone to his wicked ways. The Lord, that you have forsaken thy people, meaning you have scattered Israel, the house of Jacob. You guys got it? Because they are replenished from the east, meaning they get their spiritual nourishment from somewhere else. They get their spiritual nourishment from soothsayers, like the Philistines. They go to strange places. They go to strangers to go to get their spirituality, right? You're looking more at horoscopes and crystal balls for spirituality than you are God. Your land is full of silver and gold, and you have unending stuff, treasure. Your land is full of horses, and there's no end to your chariots. Your land is full of idols. You've built all these things up with your own hands, these things that your fingers have made. Like, you are so rich. Israel, you are so rich, but you don't humble yourself. Verse 9, the mean man, meaning like the lowest in society, he's not humble. The great man, the highest in society, he's not humble either. You can't forgive them, right? Because they're not humble. They wouldn't, even if you forgave them, they wouldn't even know it, right? Wicked ones enter into the rock, hide thee in the dust, for the fear of the Lord and the glory of his majesty shall smite thee. Shall come to pass, the lofty looks of man will be humbled, the haughtiness of men will be bowed down. The Lord alone shall be exalted in that day. So, in other words, yes, one day, Israel will be its chosen people, but not right now. Right now, they are rich and they are not humble. And they have all sorts of stuff, and their spirituality is found in soothsayers. So, what's going to happen? Destruction is imminent. Mahar Shalahashbaz, right? Verse 11. The lofty looks of the house of Israel will be humbled. Now, we can liken this to us, right? I hope, hopefully, you're like, oh, that totally applies when we're rich and when we're seeking our spirituality from other places. That's going to lead to terrible things, which is verse 11. The your arrogance will be humbled. Your haughtiness, which is arrogance, right, will be bowed down. The Lord is going to be exalted. It's a natural result of sin is suffering. Verse 12, for in that day the Lord of hosts soon cometh upon all nations, every one, upon the proud and the lofty. And then he makes some poetic parallels. The cedars of Lebanon, the tallest trees Isaiah can think of, they'll be brought down. The oaks of Bashan, again, these tall trees are going to be brought down. For us, it would be like the sycamore trees of California. They'll all be brought down. It's a poetic way of saying these things that we think are the greatest things ever, that they'll be knocked down. The high mountains, verse 14, the high towers, the ships, verse 17, the loftiness of man will be bowed down. The idols will be destroyed. People will hide, right, in the caves of the earth. They'll throw their idols into where the moles and the bats live, right? Because God, the destruction is coming, right? I'm hiding them. I'm ashamed of what I've become. And then verse 22, cease ye from man whose breath is in his nostrils, meaning, why do you care so much what people think? People die. I'm Jehovah. I don't die. Why do you care what these people that will eventually die, why do you care what they think? So, chapter 12 is one day Israel will be amazing, but for now, destruction is coming because of their disobedience. Now, verse 13 or chapter 13 is what's going to happen. And it's pretty dark. The Lord of hosts is coming. He's going to take away from Jerusalem and from Judah the stay and the staff. The stay and the staff is the support, the blessings that come from keeping your covenants. You break your covenants, you lose the blessings that come with keeping your covenants. That makes sense to everybody, right? And who's going to lose these things? The mighty man, verse 2, the man of war, the judge, the prophet, the prudent, the ancient, the captain of 50, the honorable man, the cunning artificer, that's the craftsman, this eloquent orator. They're all coming down. All will be going captive. And now, if he's talking to Judah and Jerusalem, who is coming and when? You can do this. Who is coming and when? Not the northern kingdom of Israel, that'd be Assyria in 721 BC. But if we're talking to the destruction that's coming to Jerusalem and Judah, yeah, we're probably talking about Babylon. That Babylon is coming. I wonder if Lehi reads some of Isaiah, and that's what prompts him to go out into Jerusalem and say, "We're going to be destroyed." Right? Let's see. There's going to come a day when children, probably Babylonian children, will run your life, right? You will be a slave to Babylon. The people shall be oppressed, everyone by another, everyone by his neighbor. The child shall behave himself proudly against the ancient, the base against the honorable, meaning it's going to be utter chaos, right? A man shall take hold of his brother and shall say, "You have clothes, you can be the king." I mean, that's like, that's how chaotic and the destruction of Babylon is going to be. That, anybody who's left behind is like, well, there's the rich guy, he has clothes, right? And that guy is going to say, I can't be the healer in verse 7. I don't even have bread or clothing. I don't want to be the ruler of the people. I'm too poor. I can't help anyone else, because Jerusalem is going to be ruined. Judah is going to fall. Now, Jerusalem is the capital of Judah. Does that make sense? Um, the show of their countenance will witness against them, right? You'll just look at them and go, you've suffered, right? Your sins, you can't hide them. Woe unto their souls. They have rewarded evil unto themselves, meaning Judah and Jerusalem, when Babylon comes to take you, you chose this. You chose this, right? And he says, he goes through this, list of things that are going to be exchanged for slavery. All these things that you had are now gone. And he talks basically, this center section from verses 10 through 15. It's that you didn't help the poor, right? You have spoiled. Look at verse 14. For you have eaten up the vineyard and the spoil of the poor in your houses. So you basically stole from the poor. You beat my people to pieces. You grind the faces of the poor. Grinding the faces of the poor means you make them suffer more. Okay, so what's going to happen to you? Judah, Jerusalem, the daughters of Zion. Now it's not just the women, he's calling them all the daughters, because they care so much about stuff and looks. They have wanton eyes, lustful eyes, mincing as they go. They're trying to attract attention. So what's going to happen? Instead of nice hair, they're going to have a scab, right? Instead of being well clothed, they're going to be exposed, right? Then that's Babylon. Babylon is coming. They're going to shave your head. Remember, we talked about how Babylon comes and shaves your head and brands you and takes your clothes, right? In that day, Babylon is coming and taking away all their ornaments, the cauls or hair nets. This is verse 18. Round tires like the moon. These are like necklaces, chains, and bracelets and mufflers. Mufflers are veils that you would wear, bonnets, ornaments of the legs, headbands, tablets, earrings. Now remember, if repetition is emphasis, what is this, right? I mean, it's just thing after thing after thing after thing is supposed to make us go, whoa, 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 right? The rings, the nose jewels, the changeable suits of apparel, the mantles, the wimples, the crisping pins. These are all like cloaks and hoods and hair curlers and glass. The glasses are things that you wear like transparent. The fine linen, the hoods and the veils. All of that will be replaced with what? A stink. Instead of you smelling good, you will stink. Instead of a girdle, meaning a nice clothes, you'll have rags. A rent. Rent is rags. Instead of well set hair, your head will be shaved. Instead of a stomacher, which is like a robe, you'll be wearing slave clothing. Burning, right? They're going to brand your forehead, Babylon will, instead of beauty. Your men will fall by the sword. Her gates, meaning Jerusalem as a person, will lament and mourn because Jerusalem and Judah will be destroyed. So, chapter 13 is what's coming in 587 BC. This would be something that Lehi would have probably shared with the people. Like, here's what's coming for us because of, what we've become. Um, Chapter 14 is pretty much the same thing. It's a continuation. There shouldn't even, it's a one continuous thing. So the chapter heading shouldn't even be there really, because it's just a continuation. 26 to verse 1 is just a continuation. In that day, 7 women will take hold of one man. So that's what's happened to the population, right? Babylon has killed all of these men, and the women are saying, we will eat our own bread, we will wear our own apparel. Just make me part of your house, right? Take away this reproach. Now, some people may one day say in chapter 14 that this is the of God saying polygamy is going to return. That's crazy talk. Never listen to that. This is about this house of Judah and Jerusalem, and what it's going to be like when Babylon comes. In that day shall the branch of the Lord be beautiful and glorious, the fruit of the earth excellent, comely to them that are escaped of Israel, right? They escape through their own personal righteousness. And it shall come to pass, they that are left in Zion and remain in Jerusalem shall be called holy. Everyone that is written among the living in Jerusalem, when the Lord shall have washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion, purge the blood of Jerusalem from the midst thereof the spirit of judgment and the spirit of burning. Then Jerusalem will one day flourish, right? So chapter 13 and 14 are basically this destruction is coming and it's going to purge Jerusalem of this unrighteousness. And then I can actually use it, right? And you might say that there is a 7 women taking hold of one man. Could be the church turning to Christ, saying, take away our reproach. Let us be called by your name. 7 could be a symbol of complete, meaning all of Israel will one day turn to Christ and say, take away our reproach. But this is definitely nothing about plural marriage. Okay. So are you picking up on who's Isaiah talking to and what's he talking about? Chapter 15 is pretty much the same idea that Israel has messed up, that Israel was supposed to be this choice people, and they are not. It went bad. And so what he does in chapter 15 is he writes a parable. It's a story that's meant to be like, hey, Israel, this is you. He says, one day there was a man in verse 2 who planted like a garden, and he put in the choicest vine. He put a tower in the middle of it. He made a wine press in it. It looked and oh, he's so excited for the grapes that are going to come out of this place, right? So this is Israel. Israel, I chose you. I put it in the most perfect spot. Remember how we talked about on the planet? Let's see, do you guys remember? Let's see if I can find it. He said, I gave you this most perfect spot on the planet for you to flourish right there and bring forth all this good fruit. Do you remember that? All right, let's see what happened. Oh, sorry, that was my picture for 2 Nephi 13. 2 Nephi 14 is what we read, right? That's these two are verse 5. He's saying the Lord will create upon every dwelling place of Mount Zion and upon her assemblies a cloud and a smoke by day and a shining flaming fire by night. That's why I have that picture on there, because once it's been purged and cleansed from all of its sin, then it will be like it was with Moses, that all the blessings of the tabernacle that we talked about will one day be back. Okay, so let's go back to 15. Here's our vineyard. All right, so there's this guy who made this really amazing vineyard, and he's like, can't wait to see the grapes that are coming out of this thing, that it should bring forth grapes. And it brought forth wild grapes. Now, wild there means stinking, worthless grapes. It got translated as wild. It brought forth stinking, worthless grapes. You're like, oh no. And now, inhabitants of Jerusalem and Judah, judge, I pray you, between me and my vineyard. What could I have done more for my vineyard? When I looked that it should bring forth grapes, it brought forth stinking, worthless grapes. And now I tell you what I'm going to do to my vineyard. I will take the hedge thereof, I will throw it down, I will break down the wall, it shall be trodden away. I'll lay the whole thing to waste. Nothing's going to be grown there or pruned there. It will be all briars and thorns. There will be no rain there. I mean, he is upset. For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah, this beautiful plant that was supposed to bring forth grapes. But what did I get? I got oppression. I got instead of righteousness, I got the cry of the oppressed, right? The poor. I got the poor crying to me. That's what I got out of my investment into you, Israel. I got sad, poor people because you're so cruel. Woe, meaning warning unto them that join house to house. It's kind of like the hoarding of law. Sorry, the hoarding of land, which is a violation of the law of Moses. In mine ears, saith the Lord of hosts, of a truth, many houses shall be desolate, great and fair cities without inhabitants. 10 acres of a vineyard shall yield one bath. It just means, for you and I, we're like, what does that mean? He's just saying, you're going to take 10 acres of grapes and you're going to get 8 gallons out of it. It's just nothing, right? The seed of the homer shall yield an ephah, something like what it just means that you did all this work and you're going to get nothing, right? That's how great this land is going to be. Instead of bringing forth all this beautiful grapes, you're going to have nothing. Woe unto them that rise up early in the morning, that follow strong drink, that continue until night, and wine inflame them. So these people, I guess they care quite a bit about getting drunk in Judah and Jerusalem. They have a lot of music, the harp, the viol, the tabret, the pipe, the wine in their feasts, but they don't care about God. You sure eat well, but you don't care one bit about God. My people are going to go into captivity because they have no spirituality, no revelation. Their honorable will be famished, the multitude dried up with thirst. Hell is enlarging her mouth after them. I mean, this is pretty serious judgment that is coming. And that's really the rest of the chapter is Isaiah saying, what are you doing? Judah and Jerusalem, what are you doing? Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil. Woe unto the wise in their own sight. Woe unto them who all they do is drink. Verse 22, this is verse 23, you justify the wicked for a reward, meaning you let wicked people bribe you. Right? Here you are a judge. This wicked person needs to go to jail, right? Or be punished, and they're bribing you. So you justify them, meaning you let them go for a bribe. But you take away from the righteous the righteousness of the righteous from him. So you are depriving the innocent of their rights, but blessing those who are criminals. So, what's going to happen as a result of that? Verse 24, as a fire devoureth the stubble, the flame consumeth the chaff, their root shall be rottenness, their blossoms shall go up in dust. So the Lord's like, we're not just going to cut off the plant. We're taking out the roots and no fruit, right? Like we're taking away this whole plant. I'm ripping this whole thing out. The anger of the Lord is kindled against his people. His hand is against them. He hath smitten them. The hills did tremble. The carcasses were torn in the midst of the streets. For all this, his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. I think I mentioned this in a couple of classes last week. A lot of us take this verse or take that phrase absolutely the opposite way of what it's meant. He's saying, I am going to do all this, but my anger is not stopped. Like that sounds bad. You just wait. There's more coming. Now, we've used that the opposite way, that the Lord's hand is stretched out still, like mercy. Now, it's a true principle. The Lord's hand's always stretched out in mercy, but that's not how it's meant here. How it's meant here is the exact opposite. You think that's bad? Well, there's more coming. My hand is stretched out still. It's going to be terrible. He will lift up an ensign to the nations from afar. They will hiss from the ends of the earth, and they shall come with speed swiftly. None will be weary nor stumble among them. Now, this is Assyria, right? This is Babylon. Here they come. They are coming. They don't slumber. They don't sleep. Their arrows are sharp. Their bows are bent. They are roaring like young lions, and they are coming for you, Israel and Judah. Now, you may have read or may have been taught that verses 26, 15, 26 through 30 are about Latter-day missionaries. Now, I have no problem with someone likening that, right? Someone might say, oh, I can liken this to young missionaries, which is great. But I wouldn't say that's initially what Isaiah meant. Isaiah was talking about this vineyard that had gone bad because they oppressed the poor, and the Lord is the result of all that sin is going to be awful, terrible, like fire and armies coming upon you. Okay, let's go to chapter 16. In chapter 16, the Lord, this is where Isaiah gets his calling to be who he is. So we're going to talk way back in like 740 BC. Isaiah says, in the year that King Uzziah died, that's 740 BC, I saw the Lord sitting upon the throne, and his train filled the temple. Train meaning his followers. It's like the train of a dress, the train of a robe, right? If you see someone get married and their wedding dress train is really long, it's supposed to be how many people love them and follow them, right? And he said, I saw the Lord and I saw all of his followers, and around him are these angels, and they have 6 wings, and they cry one to another that the Lord is so holy, holy. And so they shut the doors, and the whole place fills up with smoke. Smoke for these people represented like the spirit, right? That it's everywhere, it can be everywhere in the room. Or prayer. Prayer goes up like smoke, right? And he says, woe is me, I am undone. I am a man of unclean lips. I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. So Isaiah is saying, I didn't feel worthy for this calling. So one of these angels flies down having a live coal, like a hot coal, and he'd taken off with tongues off the altar. So, some sort of tool to carry a hot coal. He brings it down and he sets it on Isaiah's mouth. Here's the picture. I don't think this is actual footage, but he sets a burning fiery coal on Isaiah's mouth. Can you imagine? You're like, your lips should burn off. Let's see if I can do it. He learned my lips off. All right. You learn my lips off. So the angel flies down and sticks the hot coal on Isaiah's mouth. And he says, this is going to take away your sins and iniquities. Well, that makes sense, right? Because go back to verse 5. He said, I am a man of unclean lips. So they're like, oh, you feel unclean? You feel your lips are unworthy? Okay, I'll come down and I can fix that with this burning. So he burns his lips off, and he's like, all right, now your lips are clean. They're actually gone, right? My lips are gone. Why did you do that? How can I even talk? Verse 8. And then the Lord says, whom shall I send? And Isaiah's like, I can do it now. My lips are no longer unclean. Here am I, send me. So chapter 16 is like Isaiah getting his calling to go preach to the people. Verse 11, he says, Lord, how long? Such a immediate response, right? Your calling is to go teach these people. Oh, is it like a year? Is it like 6 months? How long? And the Lord says, until the cities are destroyed. That's how long you are going to teach the people. He says the Lord is going to remove, verse 12, remove Israel far away. That's the scattering. There will be a great forsaking in the land, meaning Israel will be scattered, but a small portion will return. Do you see that in verse 13? What's the small portion that returns? Come on, you know this. Go down to 539 BC. It's when Cyrus allowed a portion of the Jews of the southern kingdom of Judah to return after Babylon, right? That's verse 13. There shall be a tenth which will return. So you can see why Isaiah named his son Sher Yeshuv, because a small portion will return. That's what his name means. By the way, just on a side note, in verse 16, think about like a sacrament meeting. I was in a place where the Lord's followers were. His train filled the temple. There were people up there. There were people up by him who had wings. Wings is power, authority to do things in the name of God. One said something super holy. They closed the doors, and the whole thing filled up with prayer. And Isaiah starts to pray, I am unclean. So one of these angels comes down with something they had taken off of an altar that represents sacrifice, puts it in his mouth, and he says, I am ready to go serve you. It sounds so similar to like a sacrament meeting, doesn't it? That there I am, and there's these young men who hold the Aaronic priesthood, those with wings, and everybody starts to pray. One of them says something like a sacrament prayer that is really holy, and everybody starts to pray, and I think to myself, I am not good. I am of unclean lips. I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. And then the sacrament comes to me, right? I take it, I put it on my mouth, and the Lord says, your iniquity is taken away and your sin is purged. Now, do you want to make some promises? Sure do. Here am I. Send me. Anyway, a little bit of a likening you can do there. Okay, let's keep going. Chapter 17. I don't know if any of you are still with me. If you're still with me, you can put it in the comments. You're like, Brother Smith, I actually am still with you. Okay. Same idea. Chapter 17, in the days of Ahaz, this is one of the kings, right? The son of Uzziah, the king of Judah. Let me show you these right here. Okay. So you just have to know these three. Okay. Rezin is the king of Aram. We talked about that in the first video. Pekah is the king of Israel, which Isaiah is going to refer to as Ephraim. He doesn't call the northern kingdom Israel. He calls them Ephraim. And then Ahaz is the king in Judah. Okay, if you know these three names, you'll know about this chapter. And it came to pass in the days of Ahaz, the son of Jotham, the son of Uzziah, king of Judah, that Rezin, the king of Syria, there it is up there in the red. Where is it? And Pekah, the son of Remaliah, there it is in the green, went up towards Jerusalem, that's Judah, to war against it. All right. So Rezin and Pekah are like, hey, let's get together. Let's go beat up Judah and put in our own king. And it was told in the house of David, that's Jerusalem, Syria is confederate with Ephraim or Israel, the northern kingdom. And his heart was moved, meaning King Ahaz is like, uh-oh. And the heart of his people, as the trees of the wind are moved, trees are moved with the wind. So he's like, he's like getting sick, right? Then said the Lord to Isaiah, go meet Ahaz. See him, King Ahaz. Not a good guy, by the way. His son, Hezekiah, is going to be great, but his is particularly horrible. Go forth, meet Ahaz, thou, and take Sher Yeshuv, your son, remember him, a portion shall return, at the end of the conduit of the upper pool in the highway of the fuller's field. So it's basically, there's a spot there, maybe like the pool of Siloam. I want you to go, go tell King Ahaz you want to meet up, Isaiah. So Isaiah's like, hey, I want to talk to you. So they meet up, and here's what you're going to say to Ahaz. Now, Ahaz is not a righteous king. You have to keep that in mind. So here's what Isaiah says. All right, here's what you're going to say. Take heed and be quiet. I love that. So hey, Ahaz, Jehovah has a message for you. What is it? Sit down and shut up. Fear not, neither be faint-hearted for the two tails of these smoking firebrands. I know you're like, what in the world, Brother Smith? The two are Syria and Israel. Look on the map here. The two firebrands are Syria and Israel, the two tails. Okay, that's these two. The smoking firebrands are torches that are about to go out. A smoking firebrand is like they're on their very last like breath. Okay, so the Lord is saying, don't be afraid of these two firebrands that are about to go out. for the fierce anger of Rezin, King Rezin of Syria, and the son of Remaliah, King Pekah. I know you're so scared of them because Syria and Ephraim and the son of Remaliah have taken evil counsel against thee. This is what they're saying. I know what they're saying. They're saying, let's go to Judah, meaning Syria and Israel, like, let's get together, let's go get them. And we'll replace Ahaz with the king we want. Thus saith the Lord God, it will not stand, in verse 7, it will not come to pass. So Isaiah is saying to King Ahaz, these two, I know what they're saying. God knows what they're saying. It's not going to happen. What's going to happen? For the head of Syria is Damascus. That's their capital city in the red there. The head of Damascus is Rezin. That's the king. And with 65 years shall Ephraim, that's Israel, right, in the green there, they will be broken, that they are no longer a people. So the year for this is somewhere before 721 BC, when Syria and Israel were like, hey, let's go fight Judah and replace our king. Sorry, you guys. Let's go replace the king there. And the Lord's like, it's not going to happen. Why? Because within 65 years, neither of those countries is going to be a country anymore. Within 65 years, Ephraim will be broken. They won't even be a people. The head of Ephraim is Samaria. So you see Samaria is in the green there, is the capital city, or the capital, capital city. Samaria is Remaliah's son. If you will not believe, surely you will not be established. So Ahaz, you've got to believe this. The Lord spake unto Ahaz, saying, ask for a sign of the Lord. Ask anything you want. Ask for a sign in heaven or in the sea. Ask it. Go ahead, ask for a sign, Ahaz, that these two aren't going to be able to overtake you because they're going to not exist anymore. And Ahaz is like, I don't want to tempt the Lord, the God. Now, some of us read that and we're like, oh, Ahaz is a good guy. No, he is not a good guy. It's kind of like, he's like, Ahaz, why don't you ask Jehovah for a sign? He's like, Jehovah's not going to be very happy with me because he's not he's not a faithful king at all. So Ahaz is like, no, I don't think I'll tempt God. Like I'll hide behind this feigned humility. And he said, oh, hear ye now, house of David. So here's Isaiah. It is a small thing for you to weary men or argue with men, but you really going to argue with God? So God wants you to ask for a sign. No, I don't think so. Are you seriously going to argue with God? All right, here's your sign. Therefore, the Lord himself, here's the sign he's going to give. A virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and his name will be called Emmanuel. He'll eat butter and honey. He'll be a great child. He'll refuse the evil and choose the good. But before the child shall know that he should refuse the evil and choose the good, the land that you abhor, meaning the two countries that you abhor, shall be forsaken of both their kings. So the prophecy is that, hey, do you want a sign? There's going to be a young woman. She's going to have a child, and that child is not even going to be old enough to know the difference between good and evil, and those two kingdoms will be gone. So before it was 65 years. Now it's what? Like how old until a child knows the difference between good and evil, right? So it's like 5 years, 6 years, 7 years away from this prophecy. Both of those kingdoms, Syria and Israel, are going to be destroyed. Does that make sense? Now, some people would say, wait, I thought this was about Jesus. Yeah, it is. It is about Jesus. Matthew is going to use that verse to say, hey, Isaiah said that one day a virgin will conceive and have a son. His name shall be called Emmanuel. But that's not in context here. That's not what Isaiah is talking about. He's not saying, hey, Ahaz, one day Jesus is going to be born. And before he's old enough to know good and evil, those two countries will be destroyed. That's 700 years from now. That doesn't make sense, right? This is about their time period. And it's very likely that it's Isaiah's wife. This woman is going to conceive and bear a son and call his name Emmanuel. But really, it could be any young woman. A virgin just means someone who, like any young woman who can give birth, right? Okay. Okay, let's keep going. The Lord, the Lord shall bring upon thee and upon thy people and upon thy father's house days that have not come from the day that Ephraim departed from Judah, the king of Assyria. All right, so what is coming for the northern kingdom of Israel. There are days coming that have not come. Life is not going to be as terrible. Life is going to be as terrible as it's ever been since you broke into two kingdoms. Since Ephraim, that's Israel, the green kingdom there, departed from Judah. Since you guys broke in half, those were hard days. This is going to be that hard. Who's coming? They'll bring upon thee and upon thy people the king of Assyria. So verse 17 is what's coming for the northern kingdom? Assyria is coming. And when does that happen? If you go back to your timeline, 721 BC. 721 BC, here comes Assyria. It shall come to pass in that day the Lord shall hiss from the fly, meaning these armies will come in swarms. That for the bee, the bee is like, so just think of like flies and bees. Swarms are coming from the land of Assyria. 19, they shall come and shall rest all of them in the desolate valleys and in the holes of the rocks and upon all the thorns and upon all the bushes. In the same day shall the Lord shave with a razor that which is hired. So, meaning Israel, when Assyria comes, they conquer them. So they're gonna shave their heads, right? They're gonna shave their feet and their beard. This is what they did to their slaves, right? They're gonna shave them. Shall come to pass in that day, a man shall nourish a young cow and two sheep, meaning one day in Israel, that's going to be his entire farm. He's going to have a cow and two sheep. There'll be nothing left. It shall come to pass for the abundance of milk, for the abundance of milk they shall give, he shall eat butter. For butter and honey shall everyone eat that is left in the land. Now that sounds like a good thing, but it's really not. It's saying the population is going to be so reduced by Assyria that pretty much anyone can have the ice cream they want. Pretty much anyone can have the butter and milk because there's just nobody there to eat it. So it's almost like saying the land is going to be so desolate that everyone's going to have really nice clothes because there's not enough people to wear all the clothes that are out there after Assyria comes. It shall come to pass in that day, every place shall be where there are 1,000 vines, at 1,000 silverlings, these valuable crops. There'll be briars and thorns. Right? There's no one there to grow the crops. With arrows, with bows shall men come thither, because all the land shall become briars and thorns, meaning untended. Hills shall be digged with the mattock. There shall not come thither the fear of briars and thorns, but it will be forth the sending forth of oxen and the treading of lesser cattle, meaning these places that were once beautiful farms will just become pasture land. So that's the message of 2 Nephi 17 is Isaiah is going to go talk to Ahaz, the king of Judah, and say, I know you're scared of these two other countries coming, but they're not going to come. They're going to be destroyed by Assyria. Okay, let's go to chapter 18. Oh man, this is getting really long. Okay, chapter 18. We'll just keep going here until we finish. You can always pause, you can take a break, you can speed it up, you do what you got to do. Okay, chapter 18. The word of the Lord said unto me, take thee a great roll, meaning a book, write in it with a man's pen concerning Maher-shalal-hash-baz. So that's Isaiah's oldest son. He's saying, I want you to write this down. You're going to name your son Maher-shalal-hash-baz. Right? He says, the prophetess, that's Isaiah's wife in verse 3, she conceived and bare a son. And the Lord said, call his name Maher-shalal-hash-baz. Like destruction is coming. The child shall not have knowledge to cry, my father and my mother. So before the kid can say mom and dad, mama and dada, before the riches of Damascus, look back on here, 2 Nephi 17, King Rezin, do you see in the red? The riches of Damascus will be the spoil of Samaria, shall be taken away by the king of Assyria. The Lord also spake unto me, saying, forasmuch as this people refuse the waters of Shiloah that go softly, right? Sorry, I'm just gonna make sure I didn't miss something. I might have. Okay, we'll come back. All right. For as much as the people refuse the waters of Shiloah, the waters of Shiloah there are a representation of the Lord. It's like this beautiful little spring that brings forth all this wonderful water. Since you've refused that, that go softly, and they care more about the king of Syria and Ramaliah's son. Do you see that in Rezin and Pekah? So the people of the northern kingdom of Israel have rejected God, but they sure love King Pekah, right? Ramaliah's son. All right, well, what's going to happen then? The Lord will bring a river of water, strong and many, the king of Assyria. So look at these two side by side. Here's the king, here's the waters of Shiloah that you could have had. But since you rejected that, I'll give you this flood. The king of Assyria in all his glory. He will come over his channels and go over all his banks. So picture a flash flood, but it's all Assyrian armies. They will go all the way through Judah, right? All the way to Judah, and it will overflow and go to the neck. All right, so let's look at this. So here comes Assyria. We saw this map in our last one. Here comes Assyria. They go through Aram, they go through Israel, and they get to the neck of Judah, right? So here comes this flood, and it goes up to your neck, and you think, we're going to drown, right? So what's the head of Judah? Jerusalem. So when it says that Assyria comes down and goes right up here, it means the Assyrians are going to get to Jerusalem. We've already covered this story in the first video, right? Hezekiah is the king, and here comes Assyria, and he goes to Isaiah, and he's like, "What am I going to do?" That's verse 8. He will get to Judah, he shall overflow and go over the borders of Judah. You see that little brown orangish area. They'll get up to your neck, meaning they'll get all the way to Jerusalem, and the stretching out of his wings shall fill the breadth of thy land, O Emmanuel. So do you see that he just gives a quick little prophecy that Judah won't be destroyed, but it will go all the way up to the neck. All right, so now let's go to verse 9. Associate yourselves, O ye people, and ye shall be broken in pieces. Give ye ear, all ye far countries. Gird yourselves, and ye shall be broken in pieces. Gird yourselves, and ye shall be broken in pieces. So you see the emphasis over and over of destruction is coming to the northern kingdom. Take counsel together, and it shall come to naught. Speak the word, and it shall not stand. Meaning, sure, get together. Get together. Associate yourselves. Counsel together. It's not going to do any good. For the Lord spake thus to me with a strong hand and instructed me that I should not walk in the way of this people. So Isaiah is saying, oh, I know what you're saying. You're going to say, let's get together. God is with us. And the Lord is like, don't do that, Isaiah, because it's not going to happen. Say ye not a confederacy. To all the people whom ye say a confederacy, neither fear ye their fear, nor be afraid. So, okay. So, it's like, how do we say this? So Isaiah is saying, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, associate yourselves, meaning let's go find a partner. Let's find someone who's going to save us, right? This is the northern kingdom of Israel. And Isaiah, when people say a confederacy, meaning we've got to make a partnership, he's like, don't do it. Don't fear nor be afraid, because it doesn't matter who you team up with. Israel, green team, you're going to lose. Sanctify the Lord of hosts himself. Let him be your fear. Let him be your dread. He shall be a sanctuary, but for a stone of stumbling and for a rock of offense, meaning that God is there, and it's either amazing, right? A foundation you can build on, or something you're going to trip on, right? He will be a rock of offense to both the houses of Israel, a gin and a snare to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. Many among them shall stumble and fall, broken, snared, and taken. And so he's like, Isaiah, I want you to write this down. Your son's name is Maher-shalal-Hash-Baz. Before he is old enough to say mom and dad, the northern kingdom of Israel will be destroyed, and Assyria will come up to the neck of Judah. And when did that happen? 721. Look at 721. Israel's destroyed by Assyria, and Judah is saved by Isaiah and Hezekiah. Okay, I have got to go probably a little bit faster. I don't know if you're bored to death. All right, let's go to 20. 20 is pretty much the same idea. Nevertheless, the conquering The dimness that's coming will not be as bad as when Assyria conquered in her vexation, when at first he afflicted the land of Zebulun and Naphtali. The reason I bring up the map here on the screen is look at the land of Zebulun and Naphtali. They're at the top, purple and orange. Do you see that? Those places are right around the Sea of Galilee. Do you see that sea that's right there? Kind of looks the shape of Africa. It's sometimes called like the shape of a harp. It's got Kinneret and Kamat right there, and Mount Tabor. Okay, that area right there is what he's talking about with the northern kingdom. There was a time when he afflicted the land of Zebulun and Naphtali, and afterwards did more grievously afflict by the way of the Red Sea beyond Jordan into Galilee. So there was a time, meaning Isaiah says, there's a time that Assyria conquered this whole land, and that area of Zebulun and Naphtali were hit hard. And those people that walked there were walking in darkness, but there's coming a great light. They that dwell in the shadow of death, upon them hath the light shined. So a lot of people see this as a prophecy that Jesus will live in these areas of Naphtali and Zebulun. Zebulun is where Nazareth is, and Naphtali is where, that's where Peter is from. That's where Jesus is going to do most of his miracles. Upon them hath the light shined. He has multiplied the nation, the Abrahamic covenant, increased the joy before thee according to the joy of the harvest. And his men rejoice when they divide the spoil. So part of the Abrahamic covenant was that Jesus would come through the house of Abraham. So it seems that Isaiah is taking a time out here and saying, yes, all this destruction is terrible and awful. This darkness is here because of Assyria. But one day this land will see a great light. And definitely could be northern kingdom of Israel, where Jesus is basically lives his entire life and does all of his ministry and miracles. You have broken the yoke, the slavery of the burden, the slavery of his shoulder, the rod of his oppressor. Every battle of the warrior is with confused noise, his garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning or a fuel of fire. Now, others, if you're not a Christian, if you're Jewish and you're reading this, they would see this as, if I'm not an expert on how Jews read their scripture, but they would see this as Hezekiah, that Hezekiah will be their righteous king. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. The government shall be upon his shoulder. His name will be called Wonderful, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. So do you see that back here in 721 BC when Israel was destroyed by Assyria? Judah was saved by King Hezekiah. And that would be verse 6. King Hezekiah is this great king. And of course, we see it as Jesus. But, if you're a Jewish person reading these verses, who's this about? It's about King Hezekiah. Okay. If we go over to verse 9, go down to verse 9, the Lord sent his word to Jacob upon Israel. Jacob and Israel, that's, the house of Israel, the people. And all the people shall know, Ephraim and the inhabitants of Samaria, they that say in the pride and stoutness of hearts, sure, bricks fall down and stones fall down and sycamores are cut down, but we will change it. We'll rebuild. We'll be fine, right? So there's the idea that Assyria is coming, but we'll be fine. So the Lord shall set up the adversaries of Rezin against him. So who are the adversaries of Rezin? If we go back to our map here, who's the adversary of Rezin? It's Assyria. So therefore the Lord shall set up Assyria against him. Him is Israel, and join his enemies together. The Syrians before and the Philistines behind, meaning the future and the past. The Syrians before are the future of the destruction, just like the Philistines were in the past, back with David a long time ago. We haven't really talked about how they fought with the Philistines. They shall devour the northern kingdom of Israel with an open mouth, and his anger is not turned away, but worse is coming. Why? Because the people don't turn to God. That's verse 13. Therefore, the Lord will make it worse, and in one day he'll cut off the northern kingdom of Israel. the ancient, he is the head, and the prophet that teaches lies, he is the tail. The whole thing, the whole thing. Meaning the kings, they're going to be gone. The prophets, the false prophets in Israel, they're going to be gone. The leaders of the people cause them to err, and they that are led of them are destroyed. The Lord will have no joy in their young men, shall have mercy, neither, well, there won't be any mercy on the fatherless or the widows, for everyone is a hypocrite and an evil doer. So all of Israel is going to be destroyed, and my anger is not turned away, but there is more coming. Wickedness will burn as a fire, it will devour. Briars and thorns shall kindle in the thickets of the forest. They shall mount up like the lifting of smoke, meaning it's just sheer destruction in the northern kingdom. The wrath of the Lord of hosts is the land is darkened. The people shall be as a fuel of fire. No man will spare his brother, right? I mean, it's so terrible. They'll eat the flesh of their own arm, right? Family members fighting against each other, eating the flesh of their own arm, I don't think really means they're like going to eat their arm. It means that they're hurting their own family. Manasseh against Ephraim and Ephraim against Manasseh. This is the northern kingdom of Israel. They together shall be against Judah, and still destruction is coming. All right, let's take a quick pause. Oh, wait, that was not pause. Pause. Maybe. Okay, let's move on. I don't think I did great on 2nd Nephi 19, but that's okay. Let's move forward. 2nd Nephi 20, write down what questions you have. Okay, for 2nd Nephi 20, we got to go back to our history, and you just have to remember a couple of things. Okay, because this 2nd Nephi 20, which is Isaiah 10, is written to Assyria. Now, do you remember Assyria were the major superpower that destroys the northern kingdom of Israel in 721 BC? But do you remember when they headed south? They kept going and they went to Judah. They went to Jerusalem. And that's when Isaiah and Hezekiah, King Hezekiah goes to Isaiah and he's like, hello, the greatest army in the world is outside the gate. And Isaiah's like, yeah, we're going to be fine. And if you remember from the first video, Hezekiah went to the temple and he's begging God, like, what do I do? Right? And then it says that Isaiah, who had always warned the Judeans against their vanity, he tells Hezekiah not to surrender. The prophet's confidence was justified. See that in the blue there. A great disaster fell on Sennacherib's hosts. That's 2 Kings 19. All right. So that if you know that story that they attacked Judah, but then fell, but then were defeated or sent home, sent packing by Judah, then this can be helpful. Okay. So let's go to chapter 20, verse 1. Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, meaning you make laws that serve you, right? They're not just laws, they're just serving you. That right grievousness which they have prescribed, to turn away the needy from judgment, to take away the right from the poor of my people. So there, you make laws that basically take from the poor, and they're unrighteous, right? You have created laws that basically benefit the rich, benefit you, right? The lawmaker. What will ye do in that day of visitation and in the desolation which come from far? To whom will ye flee for help? And where will you leave your money, your glory? Like, where's that going to end up? Without me, they shall bow down under the prisoners, meaning Assyria. Assyria is going to join Israel in being prisoner. So this chapter here is written by Isaiah to Assyria. Now he knows that Assyria is never going to read this. It's for Israel, right? Israel and Judah to read, but it's written to the kingdom of Assyria, meaning, what are you going to do, right, when there's a desolation that comes for you, Assyria, right? He says, O Assyria, see that in verse 5, the rod of mine anger, the staff in their hand is their indignation. So he's saying, Assyria is the tool I'm using, right? So Assyria, you're a tool. Um, I am I am frustrated, or I need to teach this people, the Israelites. So I'm using this Assyria to do it. I will send him, Assyria. I will send Assyria, this is verse 6, against a hypocritical nation, and that's Israel, right? So we had Assyria up there in the top right. They're going to come down through Aram and they're going to take out the northern kingdom of Israel. That's verse 6. And against the people of my wrath will I give him charge to take the spoil, to take the prey, to tread them down like the mire of the streets. So Isaiah is saying that Assyria is going to be allowed to be the means by which God is going to teach Israel. Howbeit, he meaneth not so, nor does his heart think so. So in verse 7, he's talking about Assyria. Assyria doesn't know they're being used by God, but in his heart, it is to destroy and cut off nations, not a few. So he's like, they don't know they're doing God's work. They don't mean to be doing God's work. They are evil in their hearts. He says, for he meaning like the king of Assyria or Sennacherib, right? The general, are not my princes altogether kings? So Assyria doesn't realize that they are the Lord's. They are being used by the Lord, and they're saying, "Wait, aren't aren't my princes kings?" Meaning, haven't I conquered other countries like Calno and Arpad and Samaria and Damascus? Haven't I conquered these capital cities? As my hand meaning this is Assyria speaking. So Isaiah is speaking like for Assyria, he's putting words in their mouth. As my hand hath founded the kingdoms of the idols, and whose graven images did excel them of Jerusalem and Samaria? Shall I not, this is Assyria speaking, as I have done unto Samaria and her idols? Keep going and go to Jerusalem and her idols. Okay, so do you remember this? Sorry, my light went off. Let me see if I can turn it back on. Okay, so do you remember Assyria comes down into Aram, goes into Israel, and goes over into Jerusalem, right? And this is where Hezekiah is saying to Isaiah, like, we are in serious trouble, right? And here in 2nd Nephi 20, verse 11, this is Assyria speaking, saying, I did it to Samaria. See that, Samaria? I did it to Israel. Why don't I just go to Jerusalem and do it there too? Why don't I destroy them too? Wherefore it shall come to pass that when the Lord hath performed his whole work upon Mount Zion and upon Jerusalem, I will punish the fruit of the stout heart of the king of Assyria and the glory of his high looks. So Assyria is going to come through Israel. They're going to get all the way to Jerusalem, and they're thinking, I'm amazing, right? Assyria is like, we're amazing. We've done this so many times. We're going to take Jerusalem. And the Lord's like, yeah, you're going to get stopped about right there. I will punish the stout heart of Assyria. Stout means like proud. For he saith, so here's Assyria speaking again. For he saith, the king of Assyria, by the strength of my hand and by my wisdom I have done these things. I am prudent. I have moved the borders of the people. I have robbed their treasures. I have put down the inhabitants like a valiant man. So you can, I'm trying to do a different voice here so you can see that Isaiah is saying, here's what Assyria thinks. My hand hath found as my sorry, and my hand hath found as a nest the riches of the people, as one gathereth eggs that are left. I have gathered all the earth, and there was none that moved the wing or opened the mouth or peeped. So here is Assyria boasting, aren't I amazing? And here's the Lord's response in verse 15. Assyria, shall the axe boast itself against him that heweth it? Shall the saw magnify itself against him that shaketh it? So he's saying, Assyria, you are the axe. I am using you. But the moment I don't need the axe anymore, can you imagine the axe looking at the axe man saying, aren't I amazing? Right? And God is looking at this tool, Assyria, saying, I actually don't need you anymore. Therefore shall the Lord of hosts, send among his fat ones, that's the Assyrians, leanness. So among these great prosperous people, everything's going to be super lean, right? Your prosperity is going to be taken. Under his glory, he shall kindle a burning, like the burning of a fire. The light of Israel shall be for a fire, and his Holy One for a flame, and shall burn and devour his thorns and briars in one day. They're going to consume the glory of his forest, meaning Assyria. The Lord is going to take the fruitful field. The standard bearer will faint, meaning this. Assyria is going to look like a sick man that's dying. All right. This when the standard bearer faints, that means like Assyria is going to fall. The rest of the trees, the people of Assyria, this is verse 19, of his forest shall be a few, that a child may write them. Meaning of all the people, see if I can say this, the people of Assyria are like this huge forest, and so many trees, people are going to be gone that a child can count the population of Assyria. Verse 20, and it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more say again, stay upon him that smote them. Okay, so this is where Israel is going to, they usually, when Assyria is coming to fight them, they usually say, let's go to Egypt or let's rely on Egypt. So that's verse 20. It shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel will no more say, we need to rely on Egypt, but they'll turn and rely on the Lord, the Holy One of Israel in truth. A remnant will return, right? Even the remnant of Jacob unto the mighty God. For though thy people Israel be as the sand of a sea, yet a remnant of them shall return. Remember the small portion that returns. The consumption decreed by prophets shall overflow with righteousness. For the Lord God of hosts shall make a consumption even determined in all the land. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God of hosts, O my people that dwell in Zion, don't be afraid of the Assyrians. So this is to the people of Jerusalem, that Assyria is coming through Israel. Okay, now I live in Jerusalem. I'm afraid. Don't be afraid of the Assyrians. He shall smite thee with a rod, and shall lift up his staff against thee after the manner of Egypt. But after a little while, the indignation will cease, and mine anger in their destruction. The Lord of the Lord of hosts shall stir up a scourge for him. So the Lord is going to punish or control Assyria according to the slaughter of Midian. So that's a reference to Gideon from the Bible at the rock of Oreb. So this is where, if you remember the story, this is where in the book of Judges that Gideon was like, hey, Lord's like, I'm going to send this group of people out to go fight your enemy. And Gideon's like, I'll take this many. And the Lord's like, nope, reduce that number. Okay. And then they do something like how do they drink out of the water? Okay. Reduce that number. So the Lord actually wants a smaller army to go fight because he's like, it's going to be like that day. So everyone knows it was me. I have this small little army, right? I'm going to use this tiny little thing that no one can think can win, this little army. And I'm going to beat this major army. That's the reference to Gideon, where he says, this is verse 26, for him according to the slaughter of Midian. That's referring to that story of Gideon at the rock of Oreb. And as his rod was upon the sea, so this is a reference to like Moses crossing the Red Sea, so shall he lift up after the manner of Egypt. So here comes Assyria down through Israel. They're going to come to Jerusalem. And the Lord's like, nah, it's going to be like what I did with Gideon. It's going to be like what I did with Moses and the Egyptians. Verse 27, it shall come to pass in that day that his burden shall be taken away from off thy shoulder, and his yoke from off thy neck, and the yoke shall be destroyed because of the anointing. Or in other words, Assyria is going to be destroyed. How? Assyria is going to get closer. He, meaning Assyria, or the king of Assyria, is coming to Aiath. He has passed to Migron, Michmash. He hath laid up his carriages, right? So he's stored up supplies. Like he is coming. These are all cities. And with each city, he's getting closer and closer to Jerusalem. He's coming through Israel. They've gone over the passage. They're taking their lodges at Geba. Ramath is another city. Geba of Saul is fled. Here they come. They keep coming. They're going. It's just daughter of Galem is getting closer. These cities are getting closer. Laish, I don't know how to say all these. Anathoth, Madmena is removed. Gavin is coming. They're coming to Nob. Nob, that you see that N-O-B in verse 32. That's the city just outside Jerusalem. Here comes Assyria. They've gotten all the way to Nob. He shall shake his hand against the mount of the daughter of Zion, the hill of Jerusalem, meaning Assyria is outside. Shake his hand means knock on the door. So here comes the greatest army in the world. They have reached the doors of Jerusalem. We're in so much trouble, right? That's when Hezekiah goes to Isaiah and says, we're going to all die. And Isaiah's like, no, we're not. Well, what's going to happen? Behold, verse 33, the Lord of hosts shall lop the bough with terror. The lopping the bough is like, here's the tall tree, and he just cuts off the top, just in one moment. He cuts off the top in terror. The high ones of stature shall be hewn down, the haughty shall be humbled, and he shall cut down the thickets of the forest with iron, and Lebanon shall fall by a mighty one. So, in other words, Assyria is going to come, get closer, closer, and closer. They get all the way to Jerusalem, and 200,000 Assyrians, soldiers die in one night, remember? The prophet's confidence was justified because a great disaster fell on Sennacherib's or Assyria's army. And Assyria, the whole army and the king, were obliged to return to Nineveh. Remember how the Assyrians conquered everything but the southern kingdom of Judah. All right, so chapter 20 is pretty good. It's like he's writing a letter to to this future Assyrian army, but he knows Assyria is never going to read it because it wasn't about them. It was a message to the people of Jerusalem, the faithful people of Jerusalem. Okay, chapter 21 is this like looking forward chapter. So you can see that Nephi's interested because we've got well, why were they scattered chapter? And is Assyria more powerful than God? No, God used Assyria as a tool. Okay, well, there is going to come a day of when Israel will be gathered together again. This is the chapter, I think we talked about this, where Joseph Smith says that Moroni quoted to him Isaiah chapter 11 and said it was about to be fulfilled. That's this one. And there shall come forth a rod. A rod is like a shoot of a tree out of a stem of Jesse. That's David's father. So it's a kingly. So if you remember our first three kings of Israel, the two, David and Solomon, David's dad is Jesse. There came forth out of the rod a king, out of the stem of Jesse, a branch shall grow out of the roots. The Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and fear of the Lord. So for Christians, this is a prophecy of the coming of Christ, that he is a descendant of David. In the Gospel of Matthew, if you read chapter 1, Matthew is very clear that Jesus comes from the house of Judah, the tribe of Judah, directly from David, as like a family tree from David. He shall make him of quick understanding in the fear of the Lord. He shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither reprove after the hearing of his ears. So it's just saying that Jesus is the type of being that doesn't have to look at what we're doing to judge us. He doesn't have to hear the gossip about us to judge us. He judges with righteousness, verse 4. But with righteousness shall he judge the poor, reprove with equity for the meek of the earth. He shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth, meaning his words, and with the breath of his lips shall he slay the wicked. It's a beautiful idea, right? That he will repair injustice and that his words can get rid of sin, his teachings. Righteousness shall be the girdle of his loins, faithfulness the girdle of his reins. So girdle is clothes. And for the ancients, clothes were identity. It's who you are, right? Do you remember? You see this in the Book of Mormon all the time. When they get rich, what's the first thing to change? Their clothes, right? They get really costly apparel because my clothes are who I am. It's my identity, right? We don't do that in our culture. We don't use clothes to tell people how great we are. Okay, maybe we do, but it's the same thing then. right? So when his clothes are righteousness and faithfulness, that's his identity. That's who he is. The wolf lies down with the lamb, the leopard down with the kid, right? So this is with Jesus, there's peace. The cow and the bear, the little baby child, sucking child, can play with an asp, which is a poisonous snake. Nobody hurts or destroys in the world because the earth is full of the knowledge of the Lord, like the waters that cover the sea. This is the day where Jesus comes to do his work. And what is his work? It's really beautiful. Verse 11, it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time. So the first time was bringing Israel out of Egypt, right? They got Moses and said, come out of Egypt. Okay, what's the second time? That's the gathering. The second time to recover the remnant of his people that were driven out, scattered by Assyria and Egypt and Pathros and Cush and Elam and Shimnar and Hamath and from the islands of the sea. So in verse 11, the Lord is saying, or Isaiah is saying, that Jesus, Jehovah, this great being, is going to do his work a second time. He will set up an ensign for the nations and assemble the outcasts of Israel. He'll gather together the dispersed of Judah. Do you see the two nations there? The outcasts of Israel, that's the 10 tribes, the dispersed of Judah, the southern kingdom, the two tribes. He's going to gather them from the four corners of the earth. Ephraim or Israel, remember, Isaiah calls the northern kingdom of Israel Ephraim. Ephraim shall depart, the envy of Ephraim shall depart, the adversaries of Judah will be cut off. Ephraim will not fight against Judah. Judah will not fight against Ephraim. Israel will be one again. Um, the Lord will destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea. So it's hearkening back to Moses. And with a mighty wind, he shall shake his hand over the river and smite it in the seven streams, and men will go over dry shod. So this is this beautiful idea that the Lord is like, look, I scattered you once, sent you to Egypt, and I brought you home. I'm going to do it again, and it's going to be the same. I'm going to make a way, verse 16, I'm going to make a highway for the people to come home, just like I did in verse 16 when Israel came out of Egypt. So he's saying this future day is coming where I will gather Israel back home, and it'll be like when I brought Israel back home out of Egypt. And then Isaiah breaks into basically a song. That's chapter 21, or sorry, chapter 21 is this one. Chapter 22 is this song. It's a hymn, basically. And you can read that. It's beautiful that God is my salvation. I will trust God. I will not be afraid. Jehovah is my strength. So far, do you see Nephi walking through it saying, okay, here is why we were scattered. Here was here's Isaiah's calling to the people. Here's what he taught. Here's what he told them. And one day, chapter 21, chapter 20 was Assyria is not the leader of the world. It's actually Jehovah. Chapter 21 is he's coming back to do his work to gather a second time. Chapter 22 is the song about how great he is. Okay, now chapter 23 is fascinating because if you go back to our history, chapter 23, do you see that Assyria falls to Babylon? And that's when Lehi and the other prophets come, and Lehi flees Jerusalem, and then Judah is taken by Babylon, right? And Babylon thinks they're amazing and great. They take all these Jews, and they've done this to other countries as well. They take them back to Babylon. But we can see that about 50 years later, Cyrus is coming, the king of Persia. And what's he going to do to Babylon? He's going to liberate the people from Babylon. That is what you need to know for chapter 24, because chapter 24 is basically a letter, or sorry, chapter 23 is a letter or a message to Babylon when it falls to the Persians. Okay. Verse 1, the revelation of Babylon, or the burden of Babylon, the revelation of Babylon, which Isaiah did see. Lift up the banner unto the high mountain, exalt the voice unto them, shake thy hand that they may go into the gates of nobles. I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones, for mine anger is not upon them that rejoice in my highness. So he's like, you would say this like, Babylon is winning. How is it possible that Babylon is winning? is that is it, are you angry at those of us who love you and you're letting Babylon win? And he's like, no, 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 no. Mine anger is not upon them that love me. The noise of the multitude in the mountains like a great people, a noise of the kingdoms of the nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustereth the host of the battle. They come from a far country, from the end of heaven, the Lord and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. So they, in verse 5, are the Persians, that the Persians are coming. They are coming to take Babylon. And you've got the rest of it. I won't go through the whole thing, but it's just basically the fall of Babylon. Now, look at verse 17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes. That's the Persian army, 539 BC, against them. They will dash the young men to pieces. They have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare the children. And Babylon, the glory of Babylon, right, shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. So, chapter 23 is Isaiah's message, not to Babylon, but in theory, not in theory. It's a literary device, right? He's saying, write this letter to Babylon. And in that way, when I'm an Israelite and I read this and I know that Babylon is winning, right? I'm like, well, isn't God powerful? He's winning, right? How is Babylon winning? Well, I have this message from Isaiah that's to Babylon saying, oh, it's not going to take long. It's not going to take long, and you are going to fall, Babylon. And it's actually pretty cool in chapter 24. By the way, the fall of Babylon to Persia, back here, the fall of Babylon to Persia in 539 is going to be used by Old Testament prophets and even the book of Revelation to be the fall of Satan and the end of the world. So it's going to be like a likening thing. So Babylon falls. They think they're amazing. They think they've taken the whole earth, and they're going to fall to Persia. Isaiah is going to use that and we can use that as the fall of Satan, right? You've probably sung about it, like, "O Babylon, we bid thee farewell," right? Babylon, come to Zion, come to Zion. Babylon the great is falling, right? God shall all her towers overthrow. So Babylon of 539 BC, the fall of Babylon, is used as like a symbol of what will happen at Satan in the last day. So I hope I'm making sense. Chapter 24, Babylon is going to fall. So Isaiah is talking to Babylon of 539 BC, but we also are hearing this message to Satan, right? To Lucifer's kingdom. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob. Who's Jacob? Israel. Good. And will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. So, what this is one day God is going to restore Israel, and the strangers, or meaning non Israel, will be joined with Israel. They will bring them in, they'll adopt them in. These are like converts that come into the house of Israel, make it stronger. So, remember, we talked about Israel, you're going to get blessings, and with those blessings, you're going to get unique commandments. And with those, if you keep them, you'll get blessings. And if you, with those blessings, you bless the whole earth. And you bring strangers into the family and they become Israel. So they have the unique commandments. And if they keep those commandments, they get blessed. And with those blessings, they bless other people. So it's the idea it's going to grow, right? The Israel's going to, if this works, right? In theory, it's going to work. And pretty soon, all the families are blessed, right? You bring everybody in. And the people, so this is chapter 24, verse 2, the people shall take them and bring them to their place from the far ends of the earth, and they shall return to the lands of promise. This is the gathering. The house of Israel shall possess them. The land of the Lord shall be for servants and handmaids. They shall take them captives unto whom they were captives, and they shall rule over their oppressors. So Israel was once the beaten country, the one that was taken as servants, and everything's going to be flipped. Israel's going to be the powerful one. You can see why this would matter to Nephi, right? It shall come to pass, this is verse 3, in that day the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear and from the hard bondage wherein thou wast made to serve. He's talking to Israel, and he's talking about the hard bondage from Babylon. And it shall come to pass in that day that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon Okay, so again, Isaiah doesn't really mean for this letter to go to the king of Babylon, right? It's the way he's writing to help give Israel hope that even though Babylon is winning right now, they won't win forever. So basically, think of it this way: like, here comes Babylon, and they take over the southern kingdom of Judah, and they feel like, hey, we're the winners. And then in 539 BC, here comes Persia, right? Look on our timeline here. Here comes Cyrus, king of Persia. And what Isaiah is saying is when that happens, when Babylon's about to fall, will you take this letter, this proverb, this saying, will you take it to the king of Babylon? So it's kind of a interesting moment, right? The king of Babylon is looking, and here comes Persia, and his whole city, his whole country is going to fall. And someone comes in and says, "Excuse me, I have a letter from you for you." Who's it from? It's from this guy Isaiah. Who's Isaiah? Yeah, he was alive like 200 years ago, and he wrote you this letter. So the king of Babylon opens this letter, and what does he read? How hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. The Lord has broken the staff of you, the wicked, the scepters of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke. He that ruled the nations in anger. This is the king of Babylon, is now persecuted, and none can stop it. The whole earth is at a rest and is quiet. They will break forth into singing. The fir trees will rejoice, the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no feller is come up against us, meaning since the king of Babylon died, it's been so good. Hell from beneath is moved to meet thee at thy coming. So this is a letter to the king of Babylon. He's a pretty bad guy. He's pretty brutal. And it's the day that Persia is coming to kill him. And he's like, hell is waiting for you. Verse 9. It stirreth up the dead for thee. All the chief ones of the earth it hath raised up from their thrones. All the kings of nations, all they shall speak and say unto thee, have you fallen like us? Like the king of Babylon was the best of the best, and you fell like every other king. Art thou become like unto us? So here's all these dead kings of the past going, welcome to hell, brother. You're really the great king of Babylon. Your pomp is brought down to the grave. The noise of your music is not heard. The worms are crawling through your body. Oh, you've fallen. You've fallen, Lucifer, son of the morning. You're cut down to the ground, which did weaken. The guy who weakened the nations is now cut down. So this is a message to the king of Babylon on basically the day he is about to be killed by the Persians. Oh, how sad. Because you've said in your heart, I will ascend unto heaven. I will sit upon the mount of the congregation. Verse 14, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will basically be God. No, you won't. You have been brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. People will look at you. Verse 16, they'll narrowly look upon thee. So picture people's eyes going together, looking at him like, really? Is this the man that made the earth to tremble, to shake the kingdoms? You're the king of Babylon? I thought you'd be taller. Now, this is also a message that you can see we can liken to the fall of the adversary, right? The fall of Lucifer. Really? You're the guy? Really? You're the adversary? You're the one we were scared of? You made the world, this is verse 17, as a wilderness. You destroyed cities. You didn't open the house of the prisoners. Like you were able to maintain all these prisoners. All the kings of the nations, yea, all of them lie in glory, every one of them in his own house. So here's these kings that are dead, and they've got these great, beautiful sepulchres or gravestones, right? But the king of Babylon, you've been tossed out like a branch, like an ugly branch. You've been thrust through with the sword, and you're going down to the stones. You're a carcass. You've just been thrust down like a carcass that people are stepping on. And the rest of the chapter uh, is this message of that God is, even though Babylon is winning now, they won't win in the end. Okay. If you want to read through the rest of the chapter, if you have any questions about certain verses, you can let me know. Okay, here's the, I should have been showing you this the whole time. Here's the Persian Empire is eventually going to suffocate over Babylon. Um, let's see, and this is the fall of the king of Babylon. Now you get to 2 Nephi 25, which is I think where I had you guys stop, right? And this is where Nephi says, "All right, I've read you these 12 whatever chapters of Isaiah. Now I'm going to tell you what I got out of it." So, what you need to do when you read chapter 25, those of you who really want to understand this, read chapter 25 and look back through Nephi's vision, 11 through 14, First Nephi 11 through 14, and what he read from Isaiah, and you watch him then say, okay, from my vision and from what I've read, here is my message. So he's kind of like making a Isaiah Nephi vision smoothie where he's like, let's mix these two together and I can show you, teach you what I learned. And the one for our purposes, at least the one we want to focus on today, is 2 Nephi 25, verse 17. He says, I've seen it. The Lord will set his hand the second time to restore his people. Second time meaning Moses and Egypt was the first time. Second time is today. The second time to restore his people from their lost and fallen state. He will proceed to do a marvelous work and a wonder among the children of men. Well, what is that marvelous work and wonder? If you read the first 19 sections of the Doctrine and Covenants, over half of them, over half, start with uh, for behold, a marvelous work is about to come forth among the children of men. And then you get through section 19, never says it again. Why? Well, it came forth. Section 20 of the Doctrine and Covenants is the organization of the church. So we would say, 2 Nephi 25:17, that one day God will gather Israel back together again. And that was this great and marvelous work is the organization of the church and the missionary effort and what we're doing with the gathering. There's a lot more to learn from what Nephi does here. And the rest of Second Nephi is going to be Nephi basically commenting on his vision and Isaiah and all that he learns from that. Okay, I have no idea how long this is going to be. It's probably going to be way too long, and I'll have to apologize to you guys. All right, I'll do a video with the review slides for what's going to be on the exam.